All right, I'm gonna walk away.
Okay. Okay, keep in mind that you're going to be live now. So if you want to turn off your camera and all that kind of stuff for right now, that's fine.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Jason.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Jill, Chris.
Hi, Deborah. I like your kitten. Hey, everybody.
Okay, it is now 5 o'clock. Okay, it is now 5 o'clock.
Quick question.
Couple minutes for everyone to come in. Yes, Deborah?
I'm just wondering, the public doesn't see our faces, or they do?
So they're gonna see the face of whoever is speaking.
Okay. Thank you.
We're just going to wait a few minutes here to make sure everyone's here. So we have make sure everyone's here. Also, I'd ask if everyone mutes themselves because I'm getting some feedback. Make sure everyone's in here. Okay. Okay, it looks like everyone is here to the meeting. So I'm going to read a welcome statement to this first virtual hearing. So this is the pre-meeting welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This begins the pre-meeting for the Rochester Preservation Board hearing on May 6, 2020. During the pre-meeting, staff and board members will review cases. There is no participation by applicants or the public. Following the conclusion of the pre-meeting, a public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. Here, all cases will be heard, applicants will present, and public comments submitted after staff reports were compiled will be read into the record. After the conclusion of the public hearing for each case, deliberations will follow. The board will take action on cases that were heard at the public hearing. There is no participation by applicants or the public. I ask that all staff and board members mute their microphone at this time and keep themselves muted unless they are going to speak. So now I'm going to pass things on to Natasha.
Hi, everyone.
So it's nice to see you all again. We needed to amend our bylaws for the Preservation Board so that this hearing can operate in compliance with the executive orders as well as our orders. So I'm going to read the opening and then go through the rule changes as amended. And then after the end, we'll need somebody to make a motion to adopt them. I'll turn it all over to Chris Creda and the rest of the board. So I'll just be reading them. So in response to COVID-19, New York state law declared a disaster emergency on March 7th, 2020, followed by the mayor's proclamation of a local state emergency on March 16th, 2020. These declarations and subsequent extensions require social distancing to prevent the spread of the virus, including the closure of City Hall to the public. Consistent with such, and until such emergency orders expire or are revoked, the City of Rochester Preservation Board bylaws adopted on March 7th, 2018 are proposed for amendment as follows. Section 1A is amended to add, quote, or is reasonably determined by the manager of zoning, unquote, after, quote, regular meetings of the board shall be held monthly or more frequently, unquote. Section 8C is amended to postpone deadlines as set forth in the emergency orders. Section 12A is amended to suspend the right of any party or their agent or attorney to appear in person and testify at a public hearing or to require such persons to sign a speaker's list. Section 12B is amended to clarify that reference to, quote, appearing party, agent, or attorney, unquote, shall not include in-person appearance and shall be by teleconference, email, or other written submissions. Section 14A is amended to delete the last sentence of the section and to add that, quote, such record shall be available for public review on the city's website, unquote. Section 14D is amended to extend the time for emailing or mailing written decisions from 10 business days to 15 business days. That is the end.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendments and bylaws.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye, and please
Aye.
make sure you unmute yourself.
Aye.
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 I think we've heard from all board members.
Chris, I just want to say, moving forward, just make sure that, and this goes for the board members too, we're going to go through an alphabetical list of board members just to make sure that we get everyone in some sort of sequential order. Thanks.
And I'm happy to repeat that. We can go through and get their votes. Would that help?
That would help.
Okay.
Yes.
Deborah Beardsley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Ed Kane, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Ed. I voted aye. Jim Devaney, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Jason Dobbs, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Gerald Gam, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Gerald. Dave Matthews, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Kirsten is an alternate. Is she with us today? And is she voting?
She is not with us today, and she will not be contributing to voting.
Thank
We
you.
have a full board. She will only serve when we need an alternate for the board. So we have a full board today, so she didn't come.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just gonna state this again, just for all the public watching and for ourselves. When you're not speaking, be sure that you are muted. We were experiencing some feedback earlier, right before we started the meeting, and I imagine that would continue so. So just make sure to mute yourself when you're not speaking, unmute when you speak, and then mute again.
Chris Snyder,
Yep.
would you mind counting the votes and making sure to mention that it was passed and what the vote count was?
Yes,
Mr.
I can do
Schneider.
that.
Thank you.
Next piece is, I just want to advise everyone that the chat function will not be used during this hearing. And Jill, if we just want to make sure that everyone's names are spelled correctly for the record. Next item. So just going through our list here. So another item that we want to do, what I'm going to do is go through each case item. So we're in the pre-meeting right now. Following this page on the PDF will be the actual case staff reports, and we'll go through each of those cases. At the beginning of presenting the case, I want to go through everyone alphabetically to confirm whether or not they visited the site for the actual public hearing portion of the meeting. So the first case that will be heard tonight is 900 East Avenue, the George Eastman house. So let's go through this one and get a order of who visited the site, starting with Deborah.
This is Deborah Beardsley, and I have visited the site.
Okay. Ed Kane.
This is Ed Kane, and I have visited the site.
Chris Coretta.
This is Christopher Coretta, and yes, I did visit the site.
So maybe it'd be better to do it this way. Did anyone not visit the site? Okay, so all members visited the site for 900 East Avenue.
That's a great idea.
I realized as I was saying it that that'd probably be a better way of doing that. Okay, so did anyone have any questions or comments?
Chris, we have a hand raised by Gerald Gam.
Oh, I thought that, sorry, Gerald, I thought you were raising your hand to say that you visited the site. Go
No,
ahead.
your direction said to raise the hand if I had a question or a comment. Would it be possible, would it make any sense just for us to go around and say if we visited all the sites?
Yeah, we can, I think we can do that all at once. Natasha, would that be fine to do?
Or to go around in our order and just ask us, is there any site we haven't visited?
Yes.
Like that.
So it'd
Yeah,
be
let's
good to
do
go by
that.
person and have them say whether they've visited all the sites by person, and then we can just mark down for each person whether they've visited all 4 sites.
That makes sense. Let's do that.
Can I ask one question? Do we want to do that in the pre-meeting or in the actual hearing?
In the pre-meeting, because
Okay.
then Chris will just announce it during the regular meeting, what the
Perfect.
results are of this. So we don't have
Yeah.
to waste time there.
Awesome, thank you.
So everyone visited the site for 900 East Avenue, 498 West Main Street. Is there anyone who did not visit the site? Okay, everyone visited the site for 498 West Main Street. 1283 Park Avenue. Was there anyone who did not visit the site? So everyone visited that site as well. 729 to 733 Park Avenue. Was there anyone who did not visit the site? Okay, so all board members visited all sites. Okay, so let's go back to what's on the page here, 900 East Avenue. And Chris, if you want to go around the table to see if any of the board members had questions about these cases.
Sure. Deborah Beardsley, did you have any questions about 900 East Avenue?
I do not have any questions at this time.
Thank you. Ed Kane, do you have any questions about 900 East Avenue?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. I, Christopher Coretta, have no questions. Jim Deviney, do you have any questions about 900 East Avenue? Jim, you might want to unmute.
All right. I have no questions about 900 East Avenue.
Thank you. Jason Dobbs, do you have any questions about 900 East Avenue?
No questions.
Gerald Gam, do you have any questions about 900 East Avenue?
No questions.
And David Matthews, any questions about 900 East Avenue?
No questions.
Thank you. Chris Snyder, would you like me to go to the next one? You want to introduce that one?
I'm sorry, Chris, I was muted. Yep, go ahead.
The next case is 498 West Main Street, file number A-060-19-20. Deborah Beardsley, do you have any questions about 498 West Main Street?
I do not.
Ed Kane, any questions about 498 West Main?
No, I don't.
I, Christopher Coretta, have no questions about 498 West Main. Jim Devaney, any questions about 498 West Main?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Jason Dobbs, do you have any questions about 498 West Main?
No questions.
Gerald Gamm, any questions about 498 West Main?
Yes, I do have questions. You asked me if I had questions. I said, yes, I do have questions.
Well,
May
okay.
I ask my question?
What's your
I'm
question?
sorry. I'm trying to have fun with you all. I'm missing you all. So in principle, it looks perfectly fine to me. I obviously visited the site. And I have no objection at all to them removing the rear structure. And this new structure seems perfectly fine and appropriate and good. My one concern is we really have just the one page of drawings that give us an image of the new structure. And I'm just wondering, mostly for the rest of you, do you feel like we have enough information about what this new structure will look like? So that's my question. It may be something for the meeting. So I have no principled objections. I like what they're planning to do. I'm just worried that it's a significant structure that's going up, and do we have enough information about it? So that's my question.
Gerald,
Yeah,
are there any specific pages you wanted to point to since we have this up?
So this is the page. This is
Okay.
the only page that for what is the size of a small building. As best I could tell, this is the only page that really gives us some real detail on how the building would look. And I'm not an architect and I'm not a visual learner, so it's just hard for me to visualize what this looks like and if we have enough information. So it's a question for our architect friends, for Dave and Jason, but just for all of us, do the rest of you feel like you appreciate what this will look like and that we have enough information to go on?
I had the same thought. I was going to ask them as much detail as possible during our questioning, but I did have the same thought. So it's a legitimate concern.
So that's my question. I have nothing really to add to that because there's nothing here I object to, and there's a lot that I'm excited about.
Gotcha.
I just wish we had more detailed drawings.
Thank you, Gerald. Dave Matthews, any questions, comments?
No questions. I think I just had some comments on the 400 series Windows, page 19, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to flip to that one.
It looks like there may be some pages missing from this scan.
Okay, well, it has to do with the divided light. So they give some options. I mean, they just basically supplied a cut sheet catalog from Anderson. So I just wanted to make sure that we were going with the simulated divided light, which has the bar in the middle of the two panes of glass, and in addition, outside and inside delineation of the divided light. So there's some of the options on that page which don't show the interior bar, and some don't show the full simulated divided light. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear that that's what they were going to choose, as it's the most historic replication of what the windows would have looked like. That's my only comment.
If Chris Snyder, if I can ask.
Deborah has raised her hand for a second time. Deborah, if you want to speak.
I'm sorry. I was wondering if Dave could repeat the number. I know it's page 19, but which is not the page that's up on the screen right now, correct?
Correct.
So there
which-
is, something happened where when this was scanned in or put together for the PDF, there are a few pages missing for those details.
Yeah, I heard you say that,
Yeah.
Chris. I was wondering which one in Dave's description a minute ago, which one he was referring to on page 16 or page 19. There's a
Page
little
9.
code, you know.
So it would be actually what the Anderson terms it as is full divided light. So it would be, let's see.
You see the codes in the circles,
Yeah,
C6 or F6
it would
or,
definitely be at the top of the page. So it would be one of the first three.
okay,
A, E, or J with the bar. I think
got it.
we just might
That's
want to
helpful.
look at the proportions of the windows to determine which one might be the best.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was following along.
Okay. I think everyone covered that case. Questions and comments? The next case, 1283 Park Avenue, case file number, A-061-19-20. We'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Do you have any questions about 1283 Park Avenue? Or
Not at
comments?
this time. I do not have questions at this time.
Thank you. Ed Kane, any questions or comments about 1283 Park Avenue?
No questions at this time.
Myself, Christopher Coretta, I have no questions about 1283 Park Avenue. Jim Deviney, do you have any questions or comments about 1283 Park Ave?
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you. Jason Dobbs, questions or comments about 1283 Park Ave?
No questions.
Gerald Gam, any questions or comments about 1283 Park?
I have a clarifying question, but I can just ask it at the hearing.
Okay. Dave Matthews, any questions or comments about 1283 Park?
No questions or comments.
Thank you. We're going quick tonight, Chris. The next case
We are.
is 729-733 Park Avenue, file number A-062-19-20. We'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Do you have any questions about 729 Park Ave?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions. The photographs in my packet or the scans are really super dark. So I had a lot of trouble figuring out what the difference between all the window options are. Did anyone else have trouble with that?
Yeah, it was a little tough to tell.
I just couldn't tell. I couldn't figure out how to compare them. So that's one little batch of questions, I guess. A second question is, I do see the signage placement on page, hold on. Gosh, page 6 of our packet. I see just white letters, storefront on the facade itself, you know, on the upper windows for Pittsford Farm Dairy and the Chai Guy Cafe. I see those. When I go into the packet a little further, there's a round Pittsford Farm Dairy's ice cream sign. And armor next to it. So pages 13 and 14, Chris. Yeah, that, and especially the next page, that one. I don't see any info. They included where that would hang for the Chai Guy here on page 15, but I wasn't clear about where the round Pittsford Dairy ice cream on page 14, where exactly would that be installed? It says hanging storefront sign, but I'm not seeing anything in the packet that shows.
So if you look at page 11, and it's because the scans are not as high quality as the original.
Got it. Thank you. I completely missed that. Thanks.
Mhm.
Those are my only questions, really. I might have a couple about color or something for the applicant. Would you like me to ask? Would you like me to ask those now?
I think those would be good for the hearing. Those are more of like hearing questions. Yep.
Gotcha. Thank
Okay,
you, I'm done.
thank you, Deborah. Ed Kane, do you have any questions about 729 Park Ave?
No questions.
Thank you. Myself, Christopher Coretta, I have no questions about 729 Park Avenue. Jim Davini, any questions about 729 Park? Jim, make sure you unmute yourself.
Every time you call on me, some little flag goes up and covers the mute sign, and I have to kind of maneuver around it, and I missed. I was okay until right at the end of Deborah's comments. You referred to a page when she was trying to figure out that dairy sign, where it was going to go, and I didn't quite follow that. So I just wonder what page was that referred to there?
Jim, it's
Schneider.
on, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Deborah.
It's on page 11. It's the one that Chris currently has up on the screen. And he kind of ran the cursor over it, the round
I did.
perpendicular blade sign there's.
I
yeah.
didn't see that.
I didn't
Okay,
either.
that's why I was confused. Okay.
And then to clarify, mirroring that on the other side is where the proposed
Gotcha.
installation would be. So it's
Yeah.
not shown on this image, but it is shown
On
here.
page 15,
Yes,
it has
I saw that.
that particular sign, yeah.
Yeah, and just really quickly, Jim, another place you can find your unmute is if you click on your photograph. Maybe
Oh,
that
yeah,
helps
there's
for
usually a
later.
red mute thing down, but every time I hit it, it doesn't seem to open it, and that's why I have to go up to the blue one. I don't know why.
I think the space bar works too for that.
Oh, yeah?
The space bar does work too.
Okay, all right. Okay, no, I have no more questions at this time.
Thank you. Jason Dobbs, any questions about 729, 733 Park Ave?
Yeah, sure. So we have options A through E and options of 1 through 4, but we are only to consider option B now, as per the email that was attached.
That's
Good
correct. So the original application had those options were incomplete, and then the applicant just decided to remove them from the application. So those are not actually presented in the application because the applicant withdrew those options. So the only option for that first set of options, the letter options, is B. That's the only one that's presented, and that is the flat panel here.
Okay.
So
So they don't,
it's-
there's no chance to put glass. They don't want to put any glass up there. It's going to be a sign panel and letters.
So they presented two options. The second option has 4 variations. So this is the first option, which shows transom signage. And then the other options have different variations of types of transom glass.
So it's
in
going to
design.
be, it's going to be lettering from option B on glazing, on one of those 4 glazing options.
No, that's incorrect. It's actually shown here if you look at the design. So they actually are going to put glass there. The signage would then be hanging signs.
Okay. So
Yep.
so they're not going to do option B.
So they're presenting that as an option they're presenting you with 2 options, one with 4 variations.
Chris, could I try jumping in? Because I think I'm finally understanding this and I wasn't understanding it earlier. So could I jump in?
As long as, Jason, do you have anything else?
No, go for it, Gerald.
Okay, so Chris, let me try this and tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is at this point, we have 5 choices. Choice
Yes.
1 is, if you go back to page 7 or 6. Yes, so my understanding is we have 5 choices. This is our first choice. This is option B. And option B is the only option where they're putting lettering above the windows. And
Correct.
the lettering isn't going against glass. There's no glass background, just against a board. That's our first
The
option. We're
existing
calling
board
that-
that's there.
Right,
Yep.
so we're using the existing boards. We call this option B, but this is our first of 5 options.
Yes,
Our
because
our
they
other-
had pulled other options that would have included a transom sign. So B
Right,
is the
okay,
only
so my
option.
understanding is this is our first of 5 options. We use the existing board, we put lettering above the storefront window, and it's just a board. We have 4 other options. All 4 of those options, they're constructing some sort of glass transom above the storefront window. And we have a choice of different forms of the glass transom. So window option 1, if you go back 1 page, Chris. Window option 1 seems to be 4 vertical panels. Window option 2 has a diamond in the middle, and they're hard to see, like I'm staring. Window option 3, you have 8 panels, 8 lights. And window option 4, you have a single solid panel. So my understanding was we have these 5 options. One is just a board with signage there. And then the other 4, we have a choice of transom windows of different designs. And for options 2, 3, 4, and 5, which we're calling 1, 2, 3, 4, the only signage would be on the doors and then hanging off the side of the building.
So options 1 through 4 would
Right.
have those options. Yep.
Right. So the signage wouldn't be on the transom, it would be hanging off the side of the building. Is that, Chris, is that correct? Because this is, I was so confused with these Xeroxes, but.
You are correct.
It's okay.
Yep.
And they're willing to take input from us as to which we think is most appropriate among these 5 options.
That is why, yeah, that's why they provided the multiple options.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. David Matthews, any questions or comments about 733 Park Ave?
Jason, do you want to, your hand was up. Do you want to rebut to Gerald or jump in?
No, that was just the applause button. I was just giving Gerald a thank you for that explanation.
Okay, if you, Chris Schneider, if you can go back to 6, page 6. So my question with these, if you look at the signboards for this option, the existing signboards go all the way across the facade, including above the doors. And the proposed option, the signboard, and it was really hard for me to read, so I wasn't quite understanding. The signboard only goes across the large panel of glass and does not go across above the doorway or above the vestibule, let's put it that way. So I think there's some existing framework that supports the signs boards as they go across right now. And I was wondering, and this is a framework above the vestibule, does that go away? And we basically get a full view into the door and its transom above, and the signboard only exists above the big panel of glass?
That is a question to reserve for the applicant at this
Okay.
point, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that kind of goes to like some of the signboard guidelines, signage guidelines. Is that consistent with the streetscape? I think the existing signs are a little bit more consistent with what the original intent for those signboards are. So it's just a question to everybody else, just to take a look at that and maybe review before we get into it. And I guess the same question, if we skip to some of the other options with the glass, same question, is that framework still exist above the vestibule, or the transom glasses, we're simply getting, like shown in here, the 4 panels, and it's basically a large opening into the door and the transom above the door. So it has to do with the vestibules and the wood framework and everything. Are they proposing to replace anything other than the transoms on these? Or like the water table tile, the storefront, is that all proposed to be replaced, or are they keeping that and just adding the transom windows?
Chris, it also looks like Jim may have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, when I went up and stood inside each vestibule, the store to the left, which is the ice cream place or whatever it is, I mean, there's lovely tile up in the ceiling about that. Whereas over on where Speedy's used to be, it's been boxed in lower. And my sense was they were going to open up the Speedy side so that it could be that higher, and perhaps the tile ceiling is still above the area that got boxed in. And I thought that was quite lovely. And I like the idea of more transoms and more light going into the building. And so I kind of like the way that one there, the Pittsford Farms Dairy, I really sort of like the potential there. And I was hoping that was going to be duplicated then over on the Speedy side.
I kind of wish we had some better drawings if these were full storefront replacements, I guess. You know, it being so dark and they're just proposals that are scanned in, and I don't know if they photoshopped them or what, but it was really hard to read what was going on in there. So I think just maybe some clarification of what their intent is.
I agree.
I agree too.
The ones that are up on the screen are much better than the handouts that we had.
Okay. So those are the 4 cases. Does anyone have any more comments about this case? Any questions?
I got one question. The image you have up on the screen, what is that thing above the Pittsford Farms Dairy's door? Is that supposed to be a light fixture? Yeah, that.
I believe so.
Yeah, that would be in the vestibule, I believe.
That's what this is.
Okay.
That's what they're presenting there.
Okay, but not on the other side?
No, not that I can see.
Yeah, see, that was why I was troubled. I was trying to figure out if they were planning the same thing on both vestibules, because I liked the potential of the one, but I couldn't tell what their plans were for the other one.
That's kind of an odd fixture to have in the vestibule. You would think they'd have a hanging fixture more than a one that might be applied to the outside of the facade. So it's probably a good question to clarify.
May I ask one other question? This is Deborah.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm seeing that the 2 storefronts with a large glass window, it looks like Speedy's is divided. I'm trying to remember, or if that's just the way the paper's put up in the window there. So my question is, does it matter to us if one of these stores has a full glass pane in their larger window and one is divided into 2 parts? I don't remember the detail of that. Anybody remember? If you look up there at the top existing photo, Frozen Flavors has a full glass window, and it looks like Speedy's has 2 sections with a window framing in between. Does that matter to us? I'm just trying to remember whether that's how it is or whether it's just how it appears in this photograph.
I'll look it up on Google Maps too.
Yeah, Deborah, I think that's actually a good question. And if we don't have a ready answer now, we can ask it at the hearing. But to answer your question, are we satisfied with it? I'd say no. I would think we'd want a solid sheet of glass for both windows.
The proposal does call out that as being new glazing down there too. So it's going to be replaced. It's not going to be the same. They're not going to keep the existing clear anodized aluminum. So that's all going to be new. So, you know, whatever they do on one side, they can do on the other, I guess.
Okay.
I looked it up on Google Earth and it looks like a separated glass, but it's just a photo.
So do we have a preference in terms of one full pane of glass or separated glass?
Yeah, if they can get a full pane of glass, I think they certainly should match one side to the other.
Right?
Having
One
something
page, yeah.
Having something in the middle is probably the worst case too, you know.
Okay, so those are the 4 cases. Now, typically what we do is we would eat, well, typically we eat before we start talking or vice versa, but since we don't have food ordered and we're all at our houses, we are actually going to take a recess until 6 o'clock when the hearing will start. So everyone can, mute themselves and stop sharing their screen for that 20 minutes, and then we just come back at 6 and start the hearing. So let me just get to the page. So we will return at 6 p.m. for the public hearing. All right, everyone?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. See you soon.
What do you think, Con?